This is Aaron Golub, host of the Blind Ambition podcast. We'll be bringing you world-class leaders, entrepreneurs, and athletes, people who have overcome obstacles and used their ambition to create enormous success in their lives. If you enjoy this podcast, if you get anything out of it, the only thing I'll ever ask is that you subscribe, rate, and review. Hope you enjoy. Hello, this is Aaron Golub, and today I have a very special guest, someone who's had me on his podcast recently, Andrew Moses, host of Everybody Pulls The Tarp. Andrew, thank you so much for being here today.
Aaron, it's great to be here. Great to see you again. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. And, I really appreciate you having me on your podcast for really allowing me to share my message and my story with the world. And, we've just developed a friendship, and I wanted to give back to you. You have an important message to share, and I really enjoy interviewing and collaborating with interesting people. So, there's a lot of success in your life. There's a lot of things I want to go over, whether it be in business, whether it be in your networking, whether it be in your volunteer work. There's so much out there. Let's kind of start from the beginning, go back a little bit. I know you went to Penn State. You started with a buddy of yours, the Autism Speaks University, and your volunteer work with that has been so impressive. Can you talk about that a little bit? What led you to start that and how it's really impacted your life?
Well, Aaron, thank you. Thank you for all of that and those kind words. The autism, the work I've done over the years with Autism Speaks really began in college. A friend of mine and I were part of a fraternity, and we felt like we wanted to give back to the community in kind of an unexpected way. And we started a 5K race and a 3K walk in State College, Pennsylvania, where Penn State is. And, we set this goal to engage not only the student body, alumni, but also the community. We wanted to really connect what the college students and college community were doing with the broader community of Penn State and State College. And, along the way, we were fortunate to meet some great folks who helped us, make the right connections, get aligned with the right individuals as sponsors to support what we were doing. And it really just took off. The first year, we raised $91,000 as volunteers. We were college juniors. And I think, Aaron, like the key message is that there were so many people involved. It was the two of us leading it, but there were people who were connecting us to local business owners who would support us. We got connected with the athletic department at Penn State who helped us put together auction items. And we had football coaches auctioning off dinners with themselves to help us raise money. And we had local community members, putting flyers, at cash registers and in windows. And it really, really blossomed. And then the next year, we set out to hit 100,000, and we ended up hitting 200,000. And we were blown away. And we graduated, and we couldn't leave it there. We decided to come back as kind of part-time consultants with the Autism Speaks Foundation, and we built this platform nationwide called Autism Speaks University, which was essentially a fundraiser in a box for college students in college campuses all over America. And at its peak, we were on about 50 different college campuses across 25 states.
That's incredible. And what led you to do that, and what specifically led you to autism in general as a cause you wanted to support? Because, as a college student, most people are focused on their social life, their academics, wanting to go to the bar, tomorrow night. What led you to really dig in and focus on that and be able to create such a successful foundation? And then specifically, why Autism Speaks? Why that organization in general?
Well, we were really fortunate to have I had a mentor in my life who still is a great mentor to this day, and he has a daughter on the autism spectrum. And he was explaining to my friend and I some of the challenges that she faces, and some of the challenges that their family faces. And you take that and you couple that with the fact this was 2004, 2005. There wasn't a lot of awareness about autism. And we felt like we had an opportunity to make a big impact in a community where there wasn't a ton of awareness about autism, and also do something really special for this mentor in our life. So in our lives. So we got connected with an organization at the time called Cure Autism Now, which was a small kitchen table charitable organization that eventually merged with Autism Speaks and became the most prolific advocacy, fundraising, and awareness building organization for the autism community.
That's awesome and incredible. And I know after you graduated, like you mentioned, you continued to support it, and you actually, won, I think, the Alumni Volunteer of the Year award, the youngest person ever from Penn State to win that. So first off, congratulations. How did that make you feel? What was the, impact of that on you and your life, and why do you think that you received it at such a young age?
Well, well, thank you, Aaron. And to be clear, the Penn State Alumni Association awarded me the Volunteer of the Year in 2012, really predominantly for my work helping the Smeal College of Business on behalf, for Penn State, and less for the work I was doing with the Autism Speaks organization at the time. But I think in its totality, they recognized that I was somebody who represented the university really well. And at its core, my experience at Penn State has been so critical to my life. I met my wife at Penn State, so that's number one. Number two, it was a community where I thrived. It wasn't just about thriving academically. It was about thriving academically, thriving socially, and thriving on a community basis. The surrounding community at Penn State was one where I felt this deep connection from the minute I got on campus. And it gave so much to me, not just the campus life, but the community around Penn State. And that, I think, was what drove me to put the autism fundraiser together for the community in many ways, like we talked about earlier. But it's also what compelled me to stay involved after graduating. I can remember vividly, Aaron. I was sitting in my apartment at the time in Arlington, Virginia, and I had just moved to an entirely new city from New Jersey, and I didn't know a lot of people. But what I knew was Penn State and my heritage, in terms of being a Penn State alumni. And I remember it was a Friday or Saturday night, and I sent an email, a cold email to the director of alumni relations at the Smeal College of Business for Penn State, and I said, "I'm Andrew Moses. This is when I graduated. I just want to help. Let me know how I can." And I never thought I would hear from the person. And they called me back and they said, this was Monday or Tuesday. They said, we want to take you to dinner next week. I said, oh, this is cool. I'm going to get a free dinner. And then I learned that there's really no such thing as a free dinner, because they said, Andrew, we've been waiting for somebody in the Washington, D.C. area to start an alumni association for the business school. And we think you're just the guy to do it. And I said yes right on the spot. And that put me on a path where I was organizing hundreds and hundreds of alumni from the business community to get together on a regular basis. And that's what led to that award, which will always be one of the greatest honors of my life, because like I said, Penn State has meant so much to me. It's given so much to my life. Like I said, I met my wife at Penn State. I met so many people and amassed such a large network of Penn State alums that are always willing to help one another, whether it be professionally or personally. It's truly a special place and something I'll always support.
And I love that. And I love the fact that you really learned the skill of networking when you were in college. I think too many people are focused solely on academics, or if you're an athlete, solely focused on athletics. And it's something that I really held great pride in, is the fact that I used my 4 years at Tulane to learn how to network and to build tons of strong and powerful relationships with people who are a lot more successful than I am, people who I look up to and want to have that success for myself one day. And by doing that, I've been able to carry those networking relationships onto my personal life and professional life now. And I love that you were able to do that as well. Aside from your volunteer work, you've had a lot of success in business. You've rose up the ranks in your company, MorganFranklin, really quickly at a very young age. Could you talk a little bit about that, kind of how you've done that, and what specifically advice you give to someone maybe just starting out at a company if they want to rise in the ranks as quickly as you have?
Well, Aaron, I think it comes back to a lot of the things we've talked about earlier. It for me in my career, it's come down to relationships and the way I look at relationships. I was told early in my career that you always want to be a net giver. And when you're a net giver, it means you're waking up every day thinking about what can I do for someone else? What can I give to someone else? How can I, when you're in a conversation with someone or you're in a business meeting, you're thinking more about what you can do for that person or for that organization than what they're going to do for you. And if you approach life and you approach business with that net giving mindset, it really can change your life. Because what I have learned over the years is that if I give and I do for others and I think about others, there's going to be plenty coming back my way and I will benefit greatly. But I wake up every day not thinking about what I'm going to, get from others, or I wake up thinking, well, how am I going to help somebody else? And that's the mindset I have.
Absolutely. And that's phenomenal. And that's something that I think more people need to have, because, giving really creates more in life than taking, because when you give, other people want to do things for you in return. One of the things that I really talk about, and I was having a conversation with someone who I work with last week, and I was saying to her, one of the best pieces of advice I could give you is, in a conversation, when you're networking, when you're trying to build that relationship with someone, it's more important to be interested than interesting. And by that, I mean, if you go to a conversation, you ask someone questions, if you develop that relationship and want to learn from them, they're going to leave and say, wow, I talked about myself for the last 30, 45 minutes. I love so-and-so. Everyone likes to talk about themselves. They're always going to feel great, and they're going to want to help you because of that. Now, if you go into a conversation, you talk about yourself for 30 minutes and they talk about themselves for 5, they might have heard an interesting story, but they're not going to have a reason to want to help you in return. They're not going to genuinely like and care about you. And so it's the same concept of giving instead of taking. And I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I think to your point, it's about it's about being interested. To your point about being interested instead of interesting, one of the things that I do a lot of is really prepare for conversations with people. When I'm meeting someone in business, right, there's so much information out there about people these days, whether it be LinkedIn, a simple Google search. I try and learn as much as I can about an individual. When I'm, back, when we weren't doing everything virtually like we are now, and you get to go to somebody's office, one of the things I do is I just kind of look around. I look to see what's on their wall, what's on their shelves. You can learn a lot about someone. You sit down in an office and there's a Notre Dame football helmet. Okay, well, now you've learned something about them. They've got pictures of their kids and they're fishing. You've learned something about them. I believe that you constantly have to be accumulating information and understanding the people that you're interacting with. And again, I think that speaks to what you said, which is it's more important to be interested than interesting.
Oh, absolutely. And I completely agree with that. I think that reading the room and understanding a person based on their office, where they live, you can take away so many things from that and use those as key points to talk to them in the future. Most relationships, in my opinion, shouldn't be built from a business standpoint in the beginning. My most beneficial relationships, my most successful relationships start as a friendship, and then they develop because you just go back and forth of helping one another. And you're always helping each other to achieve a common goal. And that's why you both are successful. And that's awesome. And I've loved that you have that same mindset. I mean, it's something that we've had going on. You had me on your podcast. I'm having you on mine. We've had a discussion together about, my podcast is newer. How can I grow my podcast? I've been able to build a really large Instagram following. We had a discussion about any tips I've had for you, and it's worked well for you so far, I've seen. And I love that we've been able to just give feedback and advice back and forth to one another.
Absolutely. And I think those are the best relationships.
Absolutely. And, the really main point that I want to touch on today is your podcast, Everybody Pulls the Tarp. What caused you to create that? Give us a little background of the story of the name Everybody Pulls the Tarp and why you came up with that and what it's meant to you so far.
Well, it really goes back 16 years. And you and I have talked a little bit about this, Aaron. I started my career as an intern working in minor league baseball for the AA affiliate of the Yankees. And on my first day, I thought I was going to be this really cool, front office intern. And I was going to do all kinds of things related to the business of sports. And the general manager pulls me into his office and says, Andrew, it's great to meet you. I'm excited to have you on board. Tomorrow, bring some old clothes, put them in the locker. And when there's rain delays, we need you to pull the tarp with us on and off the field. And I said, what are you talking about? He says, well, in the big leagues, they've got the same size field as us, the same grass, the same dirt, but they have like a 20-person crew. And we have like a 5-person crew. This is the minor leagues, Andrew. Everybody pulls the tarp, and we all have to chip in. And that stuck with me. And I pulled the tarp probably a dozen times that summer. I was also the mascot when they needed somebody to step in to be the mascot. I helped set up the moon bounce in behind the right field wall for the kids. I helped park cars. I helped drive players' wives and kids to the airport and to their condos. I basically did everything. And it was this phenomenal experience because it taught me that there was no task above me and there was no task beneath me. And as I set out in my career, I said, this is how I'm going to operate. This is how I'm going to live my life. Everybody pulls the tarp. There's no job above me and there's no job beneath me. And, along the way, I think it's really benefited me. And people have always, complimented the positive mindset that I bring and the willingness to pitch in and help. And the more I started to observe other successful people in any industry, in sports, in entertainment, in business, in community organizations, there was a pattern that I was seeing. And that pattern was that people who were willing to go way outside the bounds of their job description and do unexpected things were powering these great teams and great organizations. So that's why I created the Everybody Pulls the Tarp podcast. And now I interview inspirational people like yourself and other folks from professional sports, entertainment, media, business about that philosophy.
I love that. And it's something that more people need to learn, the fact that, you're never above a certain task. And the success that you want doesn't come immediately. I'm sure when you were an intern, you wanted to be doing all these really cool things. You want to do them now, and you want the success immediately. And that's just not the way life goes. Right now, I'm striving to be very successful in business. I'm striving to be one of the nation's top speakers. It's really challenging. It's a hard road. But, small tasks are not beneath me. I'm starting off, and I'm building my reputation and my brand. And the success will come. And I think you've done a really great job of that. You've done those small tasks. You've done everything that, wasn't beneath you in the beginning to build yourself into a really successful career. And that's something I really admire about you. And I think is a tremendous message to share to others.
Well, thank you, Aaron. And, as you were talking there, I was thinking about one of the guests I had on a month or so ago, this woman, Nancy Gianni. And she's the co-founder and CEO of Gigi's Playhouse, an organization, an educational center for kids with Down syndrome and their families. And she told me something like really critical that stuck with me. And she said, there's nothing that I would ask someone to do in my organization that I wouldn't do myself. And that goes from, everything to cleaning the toilet. When she goes to one of her facilities, if the toilet needs to be cleaned, she cleans the toilet, she cleans the bathroom. And that's just, and she really believes that mentality permeates and sets the tone. And I agree 100%. And really, I think this Everybody Pulls the Tarp podcast is really more about a mission, a personal mission that I'm on to unlock those really cool stories where people are going way outside of what you would expect them to contribute.
That's awesome. And I completely agree with that. Where can everyone find your podcast? Where can everyone find info about you online, your social media? What is the best place for people to reach you?
Well, everybody can follow me on Instagram at AndrewMoses123. And then you can find all of our episodes at everybodypullsthetarp.com. And of course, wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on. Everyone go check out Andrew. Go check out his podcast, Everybody Pulls the Tarp. Has some amazing people on there, and it's a really informational and great to listen to. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it at all, if you got one thing out of it, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you.